Welcome back to the Uncinched podcast, where we uncinch what's really going on in the horse world. Today's episode is one that has potential to go down rabbit holes. And you know us, we're very good at rabbit holes. But we are talking about buying and selling horses in 2026 because I think it's a really important topic. Buying a horse has never been more complicated, and that's due to so many factors such as price, online sales, social media marketing, scammers, AI. AI has done a lot for changing that landscape. And horses are being sold across the world in minutes. It's not just about local things anymore. Sometimes we're buying a horse based on videos and a vet check alone. And sometimes you're buying a horse based on reputation, trust, or just a gut feeling, which doesn't always work out the best. This episode is based on personal experiences and industry observations from both Taya and myself. This is not legal or veterinary advice. It's just a goal to make it simple for you to understand, how to make informed decisions when you're buying a horse.
So we wanted to make this episode for a few reasons. Mainly, buying a horse is a really large commitment, emotionally, financially, you name it. And even the most experienced horse people can make mistakes when purchasing horses. There are so many factors involved that buying a horse that often get forgotten. And unfortunately, the one who always pays the price is the horse. Mm-hmm. Horses are beings with souls and free will, so ensuring that you are purchasing the right one that aligns with your goals, your expertise and experience level, and commitment level is incredibly important. Your safety and that horse's fate potentially depends on it. So whether you're a complete beginner looking to purchase your very first horse, or perhaps you're a seasoned pro looking to buy your 40th horse, we hope this episode gives you food for thought before you sign that next bill of sale. So let's talk about how buying horses have changed. So obviously, social media is one of the biggest contributors to change in our society as a whole. But in horse sales, it has actually arguably completely evolved the industry. Before social media, horse sales relied on good old word of mouth, in-person events, such as auctions, and local networks and communities. When you wanted to buy a good horse, you asked your friend who had horses, and then they went and asked their buddy, and their buddy who had a horse that was good and they wanted to part with, you went and tried it out. Or you went to a trainer who you knew and trusted, or who just had the best reputation in your area, and you went and asked them. Horse sales used to be primarily local. It was through people who you knew or knew of. Because of that, there was a lot less false information, as people's reputations and businesses were potentially at risk of being tarnished. And then social media came along, and all of a sudden the market became so wide open. We got Facebook sale groups, we have sales websites, we have blogs and pages, and those all began to give the horse world a really wide scope of advertisement opportunities for sellers and shopping opportunities for buyers.
And while that is great and dandy, it's not always helpful because you don't know who you're working with now. Now, the next thing we are seeing is online auctions. So it used to be local auctions where it was in your area or you'd travel a couple hours. And now these auctions are all over the world that you can be a part of. For example, Art of the Cowgirl, which I was recently at, they had online auction sales where you didn't even have to be there to bid, which is really interesting in the grand scheme of landscapes. And then, as we talked about with social media, it can start creating sales platforms where you can find pages. You just go onto Google and say horses for sale, and it can come up with all of these pages that are just literal auction or sales pages, where there's pictures and some descriptions of the horses, but you really don't know what you're looking at, and it can kind of force you to make impulsive choices. The next thing is the landscape changed with international buying. So with the expansion of social media, Google, internet works, like we said, it evolved the entire industry from being local to being international. So you can be in a market that may be ever changing because other places have higher currencies or able to have differences in the market themselves that now you're competing against. And then on top of it, we started to see an increase in performance horse demand because more people were doing this, yes, as a hobby, but in actual disciplines. Whereas back in the day, a lot of it was to do with work. You were working cattle with these horses. You were using them for trail riding or just being able to get around the farm even. And now it's become less about farm work and more about performing. Mm-hmm. So you're seeing a greater command for performance horses that have specific abilities and specific needs from the consumer side, which means that it's higher prices. So these are some of the ways that, you know, the modern market has changed compared to, you know, even 10 years ago. With that being said, we want to create realistic expectations when you're buying horses. So while there's so many pros to the horse market currently, especially as a seller, there's so many cons as well that are arguably more important, and that's what we're kind of talking about in this episode. Now that we are often buying horses from strangers or, you know, even scammers or AI sites, it's extra important that potential buyers are aware of the factors that could potentially burn you and create havoc.
So right now, the market has become quite competitive due to, honestly, and I mean, this is my maybe not so professional opinion. I feel like the Yellowstone era and social media has like really increased the popularity of owning horses and being around horses. So I feel like that influence, and honestly, probably a less amount of like high quality horses going out there. We're seeing quite a bit of a more competitive market today versus 10 years ago. There's been a lot of horses being sold sight unseen because people just want to have a horse and they're worried about not getting a potential good one. And we've been going through periods of time recently where horses were quote unquote flying off the shelves. And as soon as a good one or a seemingly good one gets put up for sale in the right audience, on the right platform, it's sold almost immediately. Mm-hmm. And because good horses have been seen as scarce, buyers are just committing to these horses before even seeing them in person, let alone getting them a vet check, just to ensure that they have a horse, which is kind of crazy.
It is.
Purchasing horses sight unseen doesn't always go wrong. I have personally done this, and sometimes it's gone well and sometimes it hasn't, but it has the potential of going wrong. And here's just a couple of reasons why and a couple things to think about if you are in the market for a horse.
Yep.
Honestly, straight up, because the market is so wide and we're exposed to so many strangers out there, sellers can straight up lie to you.
Yep.
And if you think about it, if you want something sold, the average person wants to get the most amount of money they can for that particular thing. And if you're listening to this and you're thinking, oh my goodness, I could never ever lie about selling something or ever lie about a horse. Congratulations, same. But I'm going to give an unfortunate reality check. And that unfortunate reality check is not everyone thinks or acts that way. And it's important to, yes, of course, think the best of people, but to also think perhaps the worst of people so that you can make an informed decision. So strangers and sellers, they can lie to you. And long story short, people are going to tell you what they think you want to hear instead of what is actually the truth so that you pay the highest amount of money for that horse. And when we're doing sight unseen sales and that kind of vibe, it makes those situations kind of easier to happen. So I find that it's not necessarily common for people to like directly lie. Like it happens. It does happen. But I find people tend to give half truths instead.
Totally.
So you'll hear like, yes, this horse stands quietly. And like they might be right, but maybe that horse only stands quietly with a bucket of grain in front of it and with all of its best friends around it for 10 minutes max.
Mm-hmm.
Or you'll have, yes, my horse stands quietly for the farrier, but they only get trimmed 3 times a year and they've never been hot shod before. And you're wanting to take your horse and do some competitive things and you got to put shoes on your horse. Or, yes, my horse is sound, but they gave it a dose of bute before they sent you the video of that horse being rode. So just keep that in the back of your mind if you're looking to purchase a horse.
The basic thing is like when people are doing those ads, a lot of times it's yes, but. So make sure you're trying to get what that but might be.
Another thing too that is, again, back to the focus on sight unseen sales, opinions. So the horse world is wide and everyone has a different idea of what a quote unquote good horse is. One person's broke angel good behavior horse is another person's absolute nightmare. And opinions and beliefs on how horses should behave can be very different from person to person. There's a lot of personal preference out there. So when you're buying a horse sight unseen and this person says that they are good, just keep in mind some questions in the back of your head of, okay, well, what is your definition of good? Is a good horse who loads in the trailer but takes 3 hours to load in the trailer? Like, yes, they load, but what is your definition of good? And really make sure that seller also aligns with your definition of good.
Language is ambiguous. So green to you could be somebody's broke, or broke to you could be somebody's green. So making sure you're understanding the description behind what they say that is. Because like I said, language is ambiguous. And we'll talk a bit more about that. But the other thing that we think is really important is going to see the horse ensures that you can suss out the situation. So if you have the ability to go see that horse, do it, because it helps people see what's actually going on. And it's harder for people to hide the truth on something because you're able to kind of see that horse in person. So ride or work with that horse yourself and see if it's as advertised. If it's not, then you can choose to leave. You can make an informed decision, or you can actually negotiate better on price because you can say, oh, this doesn't reflect what I noticed. Here's what I think is a better option. Because we're not saying that just because it's not as advertised that it's not something that you can still go forward with. It just means that you have to be able to have a conscious decision and be able to have prices reflect and your circumstances reflect.
Absolutely.
So the other thing that I would say as a general rule is if the horse is rideable, do 2 things. Number 1, make sure that your horse that you're looking at is rideable by the owner first. Do not be the first person to get on it because they can say it's rideable, but actually has a broken back or some other issue. And you're now putting your safety at risk for a situation that you're unaware of. Big thing is you are unaware in that moment, and that seller has a responsibility to make sure that they are keeping you safe in that respect. So having them get on first will put you in a safer position. And number 2, it will also allow for you to be able to see the horse move mechanically under the saddle for a better understanding of what you're getting. Because when you're on the horse, you can't necessarily see certain attributes of how that horse moves. So having that owner be able to, or seller, it doesn't always have to be the owner, be able to move that horse around, see what they're doing so you can see how their body moves is really beneficial. But the biggest thing I want to stress is that if the owner gets on first, if that horse is dangerous or not rideable, chances are they won't get on. And if they make excuses of why they can't get on that horse, that's a huge red flag and tells you immediately that maybe it's not as advertised.
And you should not get on it.
No.
Don't
do it.
Don't get on it.
Even if you're a really experienced rider, because you don't know what's going on. And a horse could be not wanting to hurt you and still do it. We are not superheroes. We cannot just like get on and be fine all the time. The worst thing that happens is when we can't predict. And horses are unpredictable, especially if they're someone or with someone they don't know.
Nowadays as well, we're seeing vet checks becoming more of a standard, which I think is really excellent. We're seeing sellers, especially on seller group sites like Facebook. I personally scroll the Facebook quite a bit to look at horses. And as someone who's sold horses on those sites, it doesn't matter really what kind of class of horse that you're selling. Sellers receive dozens of inquiries about horses that they're selling. And we're also seeing a bit of, and I mean, I feel like this has always been a thing because horse people are horse people, but we see a lot of debate between people who've made purchases based on emotion or based off of logic. And to kind of give you an idea of what we're talking about here, the classic story and what I see a lot is people want athletic, strong, well-bred horses, but what a lot of people aren't are athletic and strong moving. And I mean, I speak from personal experience, but riding a strong, athletic, working bred horse requires a lot of strength, a lot of focus, and a lot of knowledge. Comparing horses to cars, I find it's like a little bit cliche, but I find it's the best way for you to kind of understand what I mean by this. Usually the like fancier supercars or like a race car, they're usually manual and they're usually a little bit more technical to drive in comparison to your regular old SUV. And I find that's the same for performance level horses. Now, everybody wants the young and athletic horse, but the vast majority of equestrians don't necessarily need that. So just like vehicles, horses require, especially if they are more athletic and fancy, they require a little bit more of a mechanical understanding and a more technical ability because they've got a higher torque, they've got a little bit more speed, and they've got a little bit more agility, similar to a vehicle. So athletic horses are the same, in my opinion. I guess what I'm trying to say is if you're going out there to do Toyota Corolla shit, which is putting lots of miles on, going on the highway.
I love it.
And you want something reliable and low maintenance, buy a Toyota Corolla. You know, it's not fancy, but you're going to get the best bang for your buck, and you are going to be safe, and you're going to know that every time you get into the front seat of the Corolla that you're going to be able to get to work that day. It's the same thing as a horse. Basically, is buy a horse within your actual abilities and your actual needs and not what looks cool or what you think is awesome and what you wanted to do to show off. Try and make a decision based off of
what you need
versus your ego. And if you don't know how ego can affect yourself in the horse world, check out last season's episode, Check Your Ego. But let's face it, if you don't know how to drive a car, you're going to end up getting hurt. Okay? Same thing with the horse. It doesn't make you look cool, even though you might have the fancy ass Bugatti. If you don't know how to drive it, you're going to crash it.
And you kind of look like an idiot.
Yeah, and you kind of look like an idiot.
And this isn't about cars, if you didn't get that.
This conversation was not about cars. Thank you.
The other thing is, let's be realistic about money. Money is tight now. We have gas prices going through the roof in our area. You know, we're seeing quite a bit of changes in economics that are rapid. And so we want to make sure that you understand budgets are real. Do not buy things that are outside your budget, you're setting yourself up for failure. You're setting your horse up for failure, because the horses you are buying, the cheapest part of horse ownership and having them is buying them. You have to do farrier work. You have to do body work. You have to train. There's so many factors and expenses on why you have to make sure that you're staying within your budget, because if you go so far out of it, you're setting yourself up for failure, you're setting that horse up for failure, and you're setting your expectations for failure. So it's just going to lead to heartbreak, and that's just the reality. I mean, I hate budgeting too. I would love to be able to afford a Bugatti and have a Ram 3500
Bugatti.
I would love all of these things. I'd love to have a $200,000 horse. That would be fantastic.
Hell yeah.
But it's not realistic for me and what I need to do. And just because your friend at this barn is able to afford this horse doesn't mean you can. And that's okay. That is okay. And half the time, that person who's buying that really expensive horse,
She's in debt.
she's in debt. And she may never be able to get out of it. So it's better off for you and the horse in the long run. And if you want to talk about budgets, we also have an episode on that. And we have a digital project.
Holy shit.
Project. Shut up. Okay. And if you're really concerned about budgeting and trying to understand, the realities of it, we actually do have a digital product where it is a budgeting tool for us horse girls. It gives you everything you need to know. You can find it in our link tree, but we try and make it very transparent that these are real realities, like our reality check, what it really means to be spending in a balanced budget.
Can I add something to that too?
Yeah.
Especially for first-time horse owners.
Yes.
Budgeting and knowing your budget as a whole becomes really, really important, because, again, like Britton said, the most cheap thing that you will be purchasing in your life of horses, I mean, if I'm the first person telling you this, sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but yes, the horse purchase is the cheapest part. You need to keep your saddle in mind. You need to keep in mind how are you going to get this creature moving around? Are you going to buy a truck and trailer? If you can't buy a truck and trailer,
are you renting?
Rentals, feed, board. There's so many factors that before you go and buy a horse, if your top end of your budget is around 20 grand, awesome, but you probably don't want to spend all of that budget on a horse.
On top of it, there's unexpected expenses. So these are all the ones we're talking about are just expected. These are stuff that you can plan out. But, when your horse decides to maim themselves for no reason because they just decide it's fun, you don't know what that vet bill's going to look like. So being prepared for the unexpected. So like Taya said, don't be spending at the top end of your budget. It's kind of like purchasing a house in that regard. When you get told that your mortgage rate is here, you're not trying to max out that mortgage rate of going like, oh, I'm going to go buy I've been told I can get up to a $600,000 home. Oh, so I'm going to go buy a $600,000 home, because then you're going to become mortgage poor and you can't afford, the maintenance of that home, and you're more likely to have foreclosure. And it's the same that goes for horses. It's just a bit of a different way of thinking of it. So that's just something we really wanted to make sure was clear.
Like lawn chair in the living room.
Yeah, don't be a man's apartment, bachelor house.
Mattress on the floor.
Just like a little TV dinner plate for their dinner. Anywho, so this leads us into the next aspect of common pitfalls buyers face, especially if they're amateurs in the buying space. And that's okay if you are. We all start somewhere. So we're going to talk about these frequent problems. One of the biggest challenges buyers face today is false advertising. And that's simply due to the easy access of being able to falsify information. It's easier than ever to present a horse in the best light and show only carefully selected moments of that horse's journey. Short highlight reels from, Instagram or social media in general, heavily edited clips, or even AI enhanced content can paint a picture that doesn't actually reflect the horse in real life. So sometimes people will post videos or photos of a horse from even years prior to that time that they're selling, because that's when they were at their best. Beyond visuals that we're talking about, there are also misrepresentations in the training levels, the temperament of the horse, or even the soundness. A horse advertised as quote unquote finished may still need significant work in one area. They may be finished in, working with cattle, but their groundwork is atrocious. So finished, again, ambiguous language. A quiet horse may just be quiet when they're in controlled environments, but the moment you expose them to a show ring, they're an absolute maniac. And sound issues can be downplayed or not even disclosed because they, again, want to get the best price. And sometimes it's not always intentional. I know that this comes across as like, oh, all these people are doing something
sellers
mean.
Sellers are all scammers.
But, they may, for example, with the quiet horse, they may have never gone off the farm. They rode in the fields, they did all this, and then now you decide you want to go to a barrel competition. Yeah, it's a very different change in pace, change in environment, change in everything. And so those type of situations may come up. And it's not because that seller was trying to tell you, oh, they're going to be able to deal with everything. It's just everything in that point and aspect of that horse's life they were able to do. Mm-hmm. So again, like I said, language and descriptions are ambiguous. So those are the big things. It's not always intentional. And sometimes buyers need to approach these situations with critical thinking and thinking of like outside the box of what this horse's norms may be to ask the right questions. Another common pitfall is emotional purchasing. We kind of went over that, but I'm going to go into more detail. As buying a horse is often so exciting and you're so ready for it. It's amazing and it's awesome. And then we see the picture of this horse or the sales ad and already fall in love with it. We haven't seen anything. We just know it's the right one. We start to picture our future with it, everything we're going to do, all the amazing things they could bring into our lives. And that sometimes overrides the logical side of our brain that says, we should look into this stuff. I've done that. It's me.
Yeah. The Lulu.
And so then it becomes really easy for us to fall in love with, a flashing mover, a beautiful coat, a horse that looks kind, or quote unquote feels perfect to us in that moment, even if there's underlying concerns. And this can happen when you even see the horse in person at this point, because you've created this narrative in your head of what this life is going to look like.
We're going to gallop in the meadows and we're going to drink wine and the horse is going to drink wine and we're going to share grapes. And
it's going to be beautiful.
Yeah, we're going to ride in the biggest rodeo in the world. And then I'm going to crack a whip on the top of its back. I can see it now. And meanwhile, the horse is like, what? Spooking at plastic bags. Like, it's my soulmate.
Yeah, so this often makes us overlook red flags, like the spooking right away when it sees us. And, the other thing is the horse may feel fine, but something about the seller is off. And so you're like, oh no, I love this horse. Mm-hmm.
But the guy's sketchy.
You're not thinking, you're letting yourself override these red flags. Maybe the story doesn't fully add up for their age. Big thing that people lie about. Or maybe the horse just doesn't quite match up the description or the potential even based on your goals and your abilities. But that emotional pull that you've created can make it hard to really walk away. It's important as buyers not to fall for that biochemical reaction that traps into our brains and creates emotion of wanting and hope. That's the biggest thing, is we hope for this future. And then that snowballs to being realistic about your riding journey, because let's be real, we want to make sure we're buying a horse that works for us. You need to make a list of, what you require from your horse and the experience that you need and the experience the horse needs to have for you. For what I mean by that is like, don't fall into the patterns of just buying a horse because they are young or they're papered with these amazing lines or just papered in general, which increases the price. Buy and only look at horses that you actually need to avoid kind of putting yourself in that position of, heartbreak in some regards. If you are wanting to get into jumping, for example, and you don't have a lot of experience doing so, you should be looking at an older horse and a horse that has been used for jumping, not barrel racing or some other discipline. You want a horse that's been in that discipline. While, they may require a bit more maintenance and keeping up with the Joneses, if you will, on that type of stuff, and they can't maybe jump the 1.60 meters, that's fine, because the likelihood of you being able to jump at that height immediately is extremely low. And I want to set that as like a really important point. You are not going to be the top of the sport by next Monday, if you just start. And even if you get a horse that can do those things, doesn't mean you can. And it doesn't mean you will be able to get there faster. It just means that they can do it. So you need to buy a horse that works for your skill level and for your abilities. Because, like I said, there is no shame. Make it very clear. 0 shame in having a horse that's not at the top of its discipline and sport, that's the youngest and the flashiest in the barn. That doesn't matter. Those are very surface level things. You have a higher likelihood of success within your discipline when you buy a horse that is realistic for that discipline, is realistic for your skill level, and within your budget. Those factors make your goals attainable and make you a better rider. Go off, Queen.
Another thing that quite a few horse owners nowadays make mistakes on is they skip the vet check. So pre-purchase exam is the check you get before you purchase a horse to ensure that horse is healthy and physically well enough to do what you want to do. Now, skipping this vet check is another area where I've seen a lot of buyers get into trouble. And it's hard because in a competitive market, there's a lot of pressure to move quickly because there's a lot of other people who potentially want to buy the same horse as you. So with that time crunch, a lot of the times people will skip on the vet check solely because of the demand. And if a seller wants to sell a horse in a timely manner, and they have someone who's willing to pay what they've asked for without doing a vet check, they're probably going to sell it to that person. And if you feel like you're being rushed, or if you're in a situation where it's being rushed, I would strongly advise against making an impulse decision. I think a responsible seller would rather, if let's say you go and try out a horse and you guys jive really, really well and you're interested in purchasing but want to do a PPE, as a seller, I would rather have someone who's willing to invest in a PPE and go through all of those things to make sure that the horse I'm selling is a fit for them, rather than sell to the first person who wants to pay that amount of money. Not to say that everybody thinks like that, but I honestly feel like most people will genuinely care enough for their horse. So if someone is pressuring you to buy the horse, or if they're more focused on the dollar value, then I would advise on walking away, because a PPE can tell you a hell of a lot of where that horse is at physically, and if that horse is physically able to do what you want it to do. A proper vet exam is the best way to protect yourself from an emotional purchase and to help you make the most informed decision on buying or not buying that horse. Mind you, it's not about finding the most perfect horse, and it's also not about finding the most sound horse. There's plenty of horses out there who don't pass vet checks that require some sort of specific maintenance. But I think it's really important that as a buyer, you're aware of that maintenance and that it's within your budget to upkeep on that maintenance, if that makes sense. There's always going to be something. It's very rare that a horse does pass a vet check with flying colors, but I think it's more important to have a PPE just to be more informed in what you're buying.
Yeah, understand what you're buying. That's basically it. It's just an informational guide, so you know what you're seeing. Well, lastly, the one last pitfall that we kind of want to talk about is buying beyond your skill level. And this is not on the seller. I mean, the seller should be smart about maybe not selling to those people, but this is on you. You know, horses may be marketed, you know, as beginner safe or anyone can ride, which usually when I see that, I'm like, something's up. But this isn't always the reality. A horse can be kind and very well trained. Keep in mind, they could be at the highest level of training, but if you're not, it's not going to work. You're trying to drive a Bugatti and you've got Toyota Corolla energy. Like, it's just not going to work. Oh, man. The other thing is, if somebody's advertising their horse as beginner safe, anyone can ride, you want to make sure you're thinking about that in the back of your mind, because like I said, they can be very well trained, but still require a level of timing or feel or experience that a newer rider may not possess yet. So again, I've said this a few times, but I want to make it clear. Language is ambiguous. It is. It is. Everybody has a different definition of what that looks like to them. What does a beginner look like? What does anyone who can ride? You know, I've had horses that hate men. It's nothing a man did.
And that's a thing too to consider, to add on to that. Like, that horse might be what that person has advertised in their handling, in
their context,
under their context. But when you buy a horse and you take it out of that context, it can be a completely different horse. And that's another thing to think of too. And unfortunately, people don't find that out until they bring the horse home, and even after you do take all of the right steps.
Yeah, and that's why we say it's not an easy process. We're just trying to give you kind of the common things to look for. And, you know, like you said, in other cases, they may be beginner friendly to ride because they might have soundness limitations. Mm-hmm. So that makes them not want to do very much, making the horse appear quieter or easier to work with than they truly are. Personally, myself, I have seen this. It was a very funny story for another day, but basically once the musculoskeletal ailment that they were experiencing, and this was a beginner horse that like had 5 to 7 year olds on it, once that was fixed and maintained, he became a not beginner horse.
From Corolla to Bugatti.
Oh yeah,
Transformer.
Like immediately, like overnight, more advanced ride where like he was like, I'm done with you.
Fuck them kids, bro.
Literally, he was... Because Stanley all of a sudden went from being like, I don't want to live anymore, to being like, I can run circles around this entire arena and I can kill all of you. Literally. He did give the middle finger to everybody. He was like, fuck y'all bitches. I shouldn't laugh, but it was so funny. Oh my God, I can't stop thinking about it now. Okay, anyways, same for a horse that is in discomfort. Like, let's say that they're fine, but once they get uncomfortable, that horse's behavior changes. Just like us, we get aggravated when something's sore. So creating a situation that's not only frustrating, but potentially unsafe in that manner. We saw it with a horse that you worked with. I won't say the name, but, you know, was a nice horse until all of a sudden you put that saddle on and we found out had maybe some kissing spine or issues in there that made it very not safe.
She rocked my shit, bro.
She may have came off.
Like 5 feet off the saddle, land back down, and then
did a somersault.
Yeah. Hurt my ego bad. I'm still hurt.
Yeah. That's why I was like, I won't mention who it is.
We do not speak.
But again, it was okay until that soreness hit. And it was not because the horse isn't good or wanting to be good. It just went, ow. Mm-hmm. So being aware of those things.
Okay. Let's talk about red flags.
Ooh.
And what to watch for.
In dating?
I mean, okay, actually, that makes me think. Someone once told me that buying a horse is a lot should be looked at as a lot similar to
Finding a partner?
finding your husband.
Oh.
Do you just go up to Walmart and like
Hey,
find the nicest
boy.
looking guy for the cheapest price and take him home forever and trust him with your
You shouldn't
children?
be paying for your men. That's
Okay, well,
that's, that's bad. Yeah, that's illegal.
if it's foreign, it's fine.
Russian? Mail order?
Okay. Rabbit hole. The premise of that was the average person, I mean, some people do. There are mail order brides, but this is not mail order brides scenario. The premise of that was when you went and picked out your partner, you didn't just willy-nilly walk into Walmart, find the nicest looking guy for the best price and take it home. But that's kind of what we do with horses.
It is, yeah.
And
it sounds fucked up when you think about it that way.
It is fucked up. It is. And we're getting on the backs of these freaking things. Horses, not men. Long story short is you want to make sure that you're riding something that you like long term. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Let's talk about red flags. It's true. It's true, and it's funny.
True.
And you who is listening, who's like chuckling, or maybe hysterically laughing like Britain, you're not gonna forget about it, okay? So when you go and buy a horse,
Think of him like a partner.
think of him like a partner.
Don't buy him at Walmart.
Don't buy it at Walmart. And are you okay riding this thing for a long time? Thank you. Okay. Red flags.
Go
So
back.
when you're buying a pony or a man, let's talk about a couple red flags to watch for.
Yes.
Number one, and I mean this one is like deep, dark, decrepit. Not a lot of people do this, but some people do it.
More than you would think, though.
Yes, it's sad that we have to talk about this, but we have to talk about this. Horses that are being sold that are drugged. So there's a couple different options that you can use to drug your horse. A lot of people will use Dormagel, which is an oral sedation. Some people will ACE. However you feel about that, no judgment, a little bit of judgment.
A lot of judgment on my end.
But if you're buying a horse, obviously if it's sedated, bit of a red flag. Let's talk about some signs that a horse is possibly sedated when you go to visit. Number one, if it seems overly quiet.
Like unusually quiet.
Yeah, if it's kind of sleepy looking and standing there in comparison to the videos that hopefully the seller had sent to you before you went and visited the horses. If it seems extremely abnormally calm in a stressful situation. So an example of this is like you're at an auction. There's shit going on at auctions, man. And if that horse isn't at the very least,
looking around,
eyes up, looking around, maybe a little bit wide-eyed, if they are just kind of like snoozy and
don't care
and seem kind of dopey, bit of a red flag. If they're sweating, that is a really big indication that that horse is under sedation. If their eyelids seem really heavy or there's a lack of responsiveness, like you can go do a little flinch test to their eyeballs, and if there's no reaction, I would say that horse is probably sedated.
Or they're blind, and then that's also something that should be said. Just saying. Sorry.
One thing I'll give a little tip. Sometimes I've been in situations where you're going to buy a horse or looking at a horse and the person who's selling it is like hovering over you. Yeah. And I mean, that could be a really important horse to them. No judgment. But if you're in one of those situations and you're like a little bit unsure, one thing that you should always do regardless, but I find could help give some indication to if a horse is sedated, is pick up its feet.
And it's a little less obvious.
Yeah, like most people who are purchasing horses will try and see if your horse's foot broke. You can tell a lot by how well trained a horse is by the way they pick up their feet. Side note. But let's say you go and pick up these horses' feet. This is going to be a way that doesn't seem like you're trying to suss out if this horse is sedated. But if you pick up that horse's leg and they really lean on you, or they're difficult to lift up that foot, that is usually a sign to me that that horse is potentially under sedation. And I'm going to start asking a little bit more questions about, hey, what has this horse eaten today? What did the day look like? How do you feel? Is it like in some situations just straight up asking, is this horse sedated? Hey, he looks really calm. You can joke about it and be like, is he sedated? And then if they look at you like,
yeah, you gauge their reactions.
Yeah. If they get really offended, red flag. If they look at you blankly and give you some half-hearted, shitty answer, red flag. People probably aren't going to, well, I guess I feel like some people might be like, yeah, I gave him a little bit of ACE this morning, so he was good for you. Or people will just straight up lie to you. Use your discernment, use your gut feelings. But these are just a couple little ways that if you notice some of these things, just straight up ask and see how you feel after the seller has given you their response.
The other thing on that point is like sometimes horses don't want to give you their foot, so don't immediately assume that.
It's sedated.
Yeah. But the other thing, if you're like unsure, maybe they were a little bit more difficult picking that foot up, see what they do letting it go. So don't like just drop that motherfucker because like that's just not nice. But when you go to let it go, your horse will start to grab it and then be able to put it down. If it's sedated, it can't. It'll just drop. So if it won't catch itself and it just keeps on like ricocheting almost when you put it back down and they can't catch it, red flag. Big red flag. Another red flag, if the story or the information is inconsistent. So if the story about that horse or this description of that horse changes from whether it's be their history, their training, the reasons for sale, big red flag for reasons of sale. There's something that you should be really like thinking in the back of your head with and being like, what's going on here? The same goes for sellers who avoid answering you directly. Maybe you ask a question and they find a way to kind of circumvent it. Big red flag. Or they give you a very vague roundabout answer instead of very clear information. If they have missing vet records, it doesn't necessarily mean that there's something wrong. They may have purchased it and they don't know certain history, but if they're not being upfront or transparent around that health history, this is a big concern, especially if you're being pressured to move quickly or told, someone else is interested. If you don't buy right now, they're coming in to get it. This is a way of trying to make you go faster so you don't think it through. So those are really big red flags. If they want a decision immediately, it's a huge red flag. And when it comes to training, be very cautious of those descriptions that sound impressive but lack detail. So what I mean by this is they're finished, they're safe, or they have lots of buttons. What does that actually mean?
Yeah, what buttons? I got buttons in my Toyota Corolla.
I got heated seats. But, you should be asking, what does that mean? And they should be able to back it up with clear explanations and evidence, not just broad statements. Because again, like we said, language is ambiguous. Somebody could say it has lots of buttons and it is to them. But if you're using it for reining and it has literally nothing. So you want to make sure that you are getting all of those terms from being broad statements and making them say it in their own words instead of you filling in the blank, if that makes more sense. It's also important to be mindful of ads that feel too good to be true. If a horse is being described as perfect in every way, with terms like bomb-proof, beginner-safe, competitive, sound, easy, no maintenance, great mind, great mover, those words are trigger words. So if you hear them all in one package, start thinking, take a step back, reread, learn more. These unicorns, if you will, descriptions often rely on appealing trigger words that we all know that catch attention. So don't use that as the end all be all. This becomes very important, especially when the price seems unusually low or doesn't match the level the horse is being advertised at. If they're saying all of these words, that horse is not going to be $600. So if you see that, there is very much a red flag. So these are really important. If that price doesn't really reflect what it's being advertised as, big red flag. In most cases, if it feels too good to be true, like anything, it probably is. That doesn't mean good horses aren't out there, but truly exceptional, no compromise horses are rare, and they have pricing and presentation that usually reflects that. They're not going to be just in somebody's farmyard for $500. Gems like that don't exist. Like it's not going to happen. So if they have all of those things and the lines you want, their price tag is going to reflect that.
I want to let that one soak for a moment because it's what a lot of people need to hear.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about video red flags. So when you go to purchase a horse, usually there's a couple steps in the process. You'll see an advertisement, you'll message the person, ask them a couple questions, and then if you're a little bit more interested, you'll request some videos. Red flags or things ideally you want to request for full ride videos and unedited footage. So we talked about this a little bit earlier, but the highlight reel era seems to be what everybody is in right now. But when you're buying a horse, you don't want to buy them off of a highlight reel. You want to buy them off of a 5-minute video
on one session.
Getting video on how they're being handled on the ground, what they look like while they're being saddled, how they feel about getting caught, perhaps videos of them loading into the trailer. Even it's just important to think about if you request videos from a seller and they send you like little 20-second clips, chances are is those are kind of cropped clips from the best part of the video. And if you're unimpressed from the small, seemingly best clips from their session,
don't go.
Yeah, don't go. Don't waste your time. Short clips can hide a lot of things, and people, again, can use editing and use cropping and AI and all of the things to make a video look more appealing. So I definitely would recommend getting more long form content. I always like to see sellers who have like a YouTube link to their horse, and if they have like a bunch of YouTube links, like it depends on the caliber of horse that you're buying. Like if you're buying a weanling, they're not going to have this kind of shit, but like if you're buying a horse who's in the higher up in training level and you're going to be spending a little bit more money on it, requesting and seeing that longer form content I think is going to be really important in helping you make that informed decision. And if people don't want to send you videos, red flag, or if they're sending you small little clips of, you know, manufactured moments that they're trying to make the horse look good, also a bit of a maybe orange beige flag.
With that, like if it doesn't mean necessarily something's bad, but make sure you get them to do that if you do go see the horse. Like, okay, I want to see him trailer load because you only saw 20 seconds. It could have been a 20-minute video and it was the last 20 seconds. Yeah. Rumor.
and to add to that, like as someone who's sold horses, like it can get freaking annoying. I'm sure there's someone listening who's like, I'm not getting a video of me loading my horse in the trailer. And I can sympathize with that. If that person doesn't already have, like, ask for maybe one long content video, 5-minute training session. But when you go to see the horse, red flag for me is if that horse is already saddled and bridled in the arena.
Agreed. I was going to say the same thing. You want to see that horse get caught.
I want to watch how that horse gets caught, how they're doing in the, like, dynamic of the herd. If they're in a herd, I want to see where they're at. I want to see how they feel about getting caught, how they feel about getting saddled. I want to see what the horse looks like without a saddle on.
Yes.
Because you can hide a lot with a pretty saddle and a pretty saddle pad.
Yeah.
And
sometimes people don't do it on purpose. They think they're helping by having the horse ready.
Yeah.
Make it clear when you're coming. Say, hey, I want to see these things.
Yes.
And you're not a bitch for asking for that.
Yeah. And if someone is like, sounds like you're doing hard by them, or what is the word? Like you're in a nuisance or an annoyance. Yeah. You want to buy a horse from someone who gives a shit.
Yep. And understands your perspective.
Yes.
And if they're immediately getting hostile about it, they're not for you.
Yes.
Even if the horse is amazing, just leave it. Leave it.
Leave it. Bye.
All right. So we talked about red flags. We've talked about pitfalls that we often fall into. And we've talked about how the landscape has changed. Now, how do you protect yourself as a buyer? So one of the best ways, we've talked about it already, is a PPE, a pre-purchase exam, usually done by a trusted veterinarian. You can also have a body worker do it, or your trainer who can help you with these things. But gold standard is by your vet. Mm-hmm. You can still have like a pre-purchase exam with the other people, but this is more the gold standard. That way, the vet is able to look at the horse's physical well-being, and they can inform you of any physical maintenance that might need to be done. They can give you insight on if that horse is actually a fit for what you do, because your vet should know a little bit about what you're trying to buy. Mm-hmm. So they might be able to give you a bit more informed decision making. If you want to barrel race every weekend and are hauling a horse around, what's the best fit? Maybe not that horse that has never gone and done any of those things. So they might be able to give you a little bit more of a hand of knowing what you're buying. If you want to make sure that the horse you're purchasing is sound enough for all of these things, it also doesn't have any physical issues that may limit them from being able to do that. It gives you a bit of troubleshooting and allows them and you to make the right decision for you. So, maybe that horse has a history of ulcers, or maybe that horse has an ulcer that they found. That might be something that you should be aware of if you're going to put them in stress situations. Does this make sense for you? And a vet can help you do that.
The next thing to help protect you as a buyer is bring someone knowledgeable with you to help give you a second opinion.
Even if you know things.
Yes. Buying a horse, especially for the first time, and if you exist in the same economy as us, buying a horse right now is a huge investment.
Yeah.
And it's really easy to get behind your eyes and get super excited about making this big purchase. But with that exciting new potential euphoric feeling, whatever the hell you want to call it, kind of what Britton was talking about earlier, we can get into a bit of a, I guess, more of a lust. Beer goggles, is that what you're doing?
Blinders, beer
goggles.
Yeah, fall
beer
over.
Goggles, woo! So I think it's really important to bring someone who knows about you, knows your riding ability, knows what your goals are, and understands your budget to help bring you down to earth when you go and visit a horse. Because, I speak from no judgment here. I have gone to see horses and have been like, oh my God, it's a buckskin. Yay, I'm buying it. It's a roan. Yay. And having that person there will just kind of help ground you, help you with that decision to make sure that it is the right one for you. And this person can be your trainer. Your trainer is probably arguably one of the best persons to bring with you, because they will know your riding abilities. They will know what your goals are. They will know what your budget is. The veterinarian who does your PPE, they just go by the facts, which is what I love about PPEs. Or if you don't have any of those, bring your most experienced horse friend. And someone who is going to be honest with you and who also isn't going to get caught up in the lust. I feel like if me and Britton went horse shopping together, it would go really bad. We would end up with a trailer full of buckskins and blue roans. We would be really happy, but we'd be really broke.
That's true. I don't think we would be bad at doing the things though, because we both have different things we would be looking at.
That's
I'd
true.
be immediately looking at musculoskeletal, dental. You would be like, does this horse ride? So
is it a Corolla or a Bugatti?
because Britain needs a Mazda. It needs in between. No, I agree. But with what you said to that, it made me think, bring someone who doesn't have skin in the game. You know, if it's your boyfriend, let's say, and they may have a lot of experience, but it's going to be their horse too. They're also going to have those blinders and be excited. So, you know, your trainer's not really going to have skin in the game. Your vet definitely doesn't. They don't care. If anything, they're like, if it has problems, I get paid more. So they'll let you know
or I
all
have
of
to deal with it.
Yeah, exactly. And so bring somebody who will be honest with you, who's not going to just tell you what you want to hear, and who doesn't necessarily have the most skin in the game, because your mom might get excited too, or you know, your bestie. You might have a full trailer, but like just somebody who will be able to maybe ask questions you didn't think of too.
Yes, absolutely. And someone who's not afraid to ask questions, and someone who's going to have a watchful eye and is going to be noticing things, and someone to like actually really know what your abilities are. Because again, back to the Corolla stuff, would you let your granny drive your souped up 6-inch lift kit 2500 Dodge Ram dually? No, you're gonna get her the Corolla, because we don't want granny to die. Same thing with a horse. Buy something that's going to be practical and realistic for you is what you want to do. And you want to make sure that you're going to bring the person who's going to help you make that practical, realistic choice. Yep. Not who's going to be like, oh my God, 2500 dually, you would look really cool in that. And I would be your passenger.
I want a passenger princess. We both never have driven a truck before. It'll be fine. Or a manual, if you're like, yeah, I've never driven a manual, but I'm going to buy one. See what happens. Seems like a bad choice. Woo!
And when you think about it from the car analogy,
you can understand it better.
It makes sense.
Because it doesn't feel, it's more mechanical. There is like pieces in it that you can understand. And that's why we bring it to that. And because it's horsepower. Wink, wink. Our sound effects are amazing. But yeah. So this is really important information, guys. Listen up.
Yeah.
Yeah, ho. No. Yeah, ho.
I thought this episode was going to be like so informative. And
it is. We're just fun at the same time. Fuck you, Taya.
No, but
we have good energy. We have good juju.
Good juju. Never mind. Just don't listen to me. Keep going. It's fine.
Okay.
Well, to summarize all of the things, buying a horse should be exciting through and through. But at the end of the day, you need to have patience, because the goal is finding the right horse for you, finding the right partnership, because they are beings with free will and their own agencies, and making sure that that horse is going to be put in the right situation to be safe for them and you. At the end of the day, buying a horse should be an exciting experience, and it is an exciting experience. However, it's one that we feel deserves a lot of time, a lot of thought, and a lot of intention. It's easy to get caught up in the moment or in the emotions, or to feel pressure to act quickly, especially nowadays with the rise of social media and the international market and the horse market craze that's happening, the shebang. But the goal isn't to buy just any horse, at least in our opinion. It's to find the right horse and to do right by that horse by finding the right horse. Build the right partnership. That's a goal. And to create the right situation for both you and the horse. When those pieces align, that's when true enjoyment of horse ownership comes. And I think for us, that's really one of the main goals of this episode today, is just giving you some more food for thought. And if you're going to go buy a horse, to be a little bit more intentional and thoughtful about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And with that, we've come to the end. It's a little bit of a longer episode. I know that. But it's because we have so much we want to say, and we're very passionate people.
Yes.
And we're funny. So, anywho, we want to encourage you guys to interact with us. We love getting messages. We love getting emails. We love hearing that you are enjoying the show. Please like, share, subscribe to Uncinched. It helps us be able to get to more listeners, and it helps us make sure that we're tailoring situations and episodes that are towards you and what you want and what you need. So leave us reviews, hopefully good ones. But you do you, boo.
Yeah, keep your 2-star reviews to yourself. That's all I'm going to say.
Just swipe right and leave. Or swipe left, whatever the Tinder is. I don't know. I've been out of the game for a long time. And then on top of it, if you really enjoy our show and our shenanigans, we do have social pages. So if you're on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, take a look at us. Come follow our social media. They are linked in our show notes, so it's easy to access and look them over. We would love to see you there. We get up to some crazy stuff. You can kind of see some behind the scenes and you know, our quirky personalities. So please feel free to interact with us in those ways and stay in our little community, because that's our biggest goal, is to create a beautiful community. And we know this was a lot of information and a lot of yelling at you to just be better. And we don't want it to come across like that. So we have created a digital product for you. We're calling it the Smart Buyer's Blueprint. This is mainly used as a resource for you to help buy your horses in a way that is a little bit more methodical and a little bit easier for you. So we're going to have a checklist-based guide that helps you as a buyer ask the right questions, look for red flags, understand what we're looking at, prepare for everything, and have like a literal checklist of some questions you might want to ask or what you should be looking for, so you make smarter purchase decisions that are informed and a little bit easier and a little less intimidating. So that will be available through our link in the bio, which is going to be on our Instagrams or anything like that, but it's also in our show notes that you can buy that to help you do a little bit better.
Yeah, not buy a
lemon.
Yeah.
A Corolla lemon. Poor Corolla. Toyota's not going to want to sponsor us. Yeah. And before we head out, we have an Uncinched Confessions episode coming next. So that is on unpopular horse opinions that you will defend with your whole chest. Remember, this is anonymous. Please feel free to send those in. And then we just have a conversation about them. So that's going to be coming up here very, very soon. So please make sure that you add your opinions and your thoughts on that. All right.
Thank you guys so much for listening, and we will see you next time.
Bye.